Okay, fellas, we're back, hopefully. Let's see, Brent, I hope you'll tell me we have audio now. One of these days I'm going to have to fire me an engineer, but I guess that would be me. Anyway, Brent, let me know on the chat if you hear me A-okay. All right. Just say yay or nay. Okay, good. Yeah, we've been having audio problems going through Skype, so I'm just dialing straight in off my cell phone. So we won't dally around. We'll go ahead and start it right on up. I wanted to introduce you to tonight's guest. His name is Mr. Bobby Franklin. And his story is similar to that of the Bundys and reads apparent greed for land in the Nevada area. And as a matter of fact, the BLM task force recruited a Clark County commissioner and his appointees in Mr. Franklin's case, along with looks like Nevada Police Department or those officials regarding that area. And except in 1995 and 96, apparently they roadblocked his 160-acre gates and falsely arrested him on charges. He was never prosecuted. And in 1996, they beat and jailed and chased him out of Laughlin. According to Mr. Franklin, they ransacked and completely destroyed all the structures and fences on his estate without any warrant to do so or any due process. In fact, his BLM could not do any more to him because his land was in abeyance on appeal from BLM and the Department of Interior. Band of Land Appeals, Interior Board of Land Appeals, on 12/1996, the IBLA entered their final order and has no further jurisdiction on the land after years of falsifying public records, and I hope we'll have an individual that may have discovered a little falsifying in her investigations. I hope we'll have her on tonight. And when I talk about falsifying, I'm talking about falsifying amongst put it this way, a very high-up official in Nevada. And according to the title Plat Map, the name recruits spent years on their proposed BLM land auction. 2005, their considered BLM land auction sold 80 acres of his land to Don Laughlin, who is still suing Mr. Franklin in federal court. This is an ongoing 26-year of events, and he got years of Reed's press releases where he was trying to make a land swap law to funnel his estate into Robert Bilbrey's. Private corporations could tell how Bilbrey and Woodbury embezzled 5,000 acres under color of their office. Bobby would also tell us how his daughter was also kidnapped in the land grab. I'm not sure by what parties, but we'll find that out from Mr. Franklin. He could also tell us why E&N backed out of their contracted by 9,000 acres in Laughlin and now moved to the Bundy Ranch area. Bobby has gathered 26 years of hard copy evidence and no doubt that he has. It's out there for the getting if you know what to look for. The continuing saga BLM overreach, and also more this evening on tonight's show. Anyway, I'm going to open up the microphone to Brent first, and then we have area code 814. Please hold. I think that might be you, Mr. Franklin. Hold on a moment. Let me get called up, and we'll get started. Okay, Brent, on to you, my friend.
All right, buddy. How you doing?
All right. You're going to have to come over and fix my crap. That's all there's to it. You just...
Yeah, you definitely need to fire that engineer you have over there. That guy's just useless. How much you paying him?
Nothing.
Yeah, Bobby, I just messaged Bobby. He'll be calling in from an 830 number. I don't know who the 814 number is. And
okay.
But I'd let him know we're having some sound problems, but he should be calling in real shortly.
Yeah. Fortunately, we got a ways to go in the show, so we got plenty of time. All right, here's an 830 number.
That will be Mr. Franklin.
All right, let's go to Mr. Franklin. All right, Mr. Franklin, coming to you, sir. Let me open it up again. Okay, Mr. Franklin, you there, sir?
Yes.
Great to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, from what I've read, I understand you have had quite the ordeal, and I'd like to explain to us and the audience exactly how it started, the ins and outs of it, if you could. I know sometimes it goes into lengthy detail. If you could somewhat surmise it to some degree.
Yeah. I've done it. I've done it quite a few times. I've been court a million times.
Okay. Well, let me catch this 814 number. Let's see who this is first. Area code 814. I'm sorry?
Yes.
Area code 814. You're on the air. You there? I don't know that they expected to be on the air. But anyway, go ahead, Mr. Franklin. Go ahead and start. Go ahead and start at a good place for you that give us a lowdown on exactly how I can give
you I could talk about it for a few days or a few weeks because there's so many details. I mean, I'm talking 26 years on this. But,
I know.
I can give you a brief, just on more of the legal. Well, there's a few events too, but it's all kind of legal stuff. But I'm going to leave out a lot of stuff because there's no way I can cover everything that went on. But Bob,
this is Brett. If you could try to, I guess maybe stay away from too many legal terms and kind of in a layman's sort of way. Start from the beginning, and that's the best place to start. Kind of tell our listeners where your land is and what happened to it.
Let's go with the events. What led up to the legal battle? What exactly happened?
Well, let me tell you how I got it first, okay?
Okay.
And what the background of how I got it, why I got it, and then a few details what happened over the last 26 years. But 1988, I purchased 80 acres from the BLM because I wanted to compete in farming with the county had farming, irrigation systems on all of my surrounding area that I staked out. Okay, I went and purchased 80 acres, and then that was in 1988. And then quickly, the BLM, I bought it from the BLM. So quickly they come up and they said, no, that's mineral and character. There's mining claims on it. Well, yeah, I immediately found out that they was processing a mineral patent for 1,280 acres, which consumes sections 9 and 16, and that was on the land I bought. So naturally I appealed to the Department of Interior Board of Land Appeals, and so the land was in abeyance then. It took 2 years to go through the appeal process up there. Okay, I had the miners kicked off. I had the BLM mineral contest reversed. So from there it was I couldn't get all of my permits, to compete with the other guy. On the county side of it, who was farming there was Bruce Woodbury. He was county commissioner. He was in charge running that show, and he was also the trustee of the Colorado River Commission. That's a state device that owns that 9,000 acres that ENN wanted to buy. Well, so I couldn't get all my permits because they wouldn't give them to me. So then, there's a lot of things that happened, a lot of events that happened between 1990 when I got my final. No, it wasn't a final when I got the decision from IBLA that reversed BLM's contest against me. So, like in 1995, the police started putting roadblocks around my gates on my 160 acres. I had fences and a bunch of vehicles in there and stuff like that. And they did it under the guise that they was doing DUI checks, right? And I'm inside of my property, and I got all these cops around me, stopping all the cars. And every time I'd come in and out of my gate, I'd get falsely arrested for things like, I'd always ask them, what's your probable cause even stopping me, and they look at my car and, we see a crack in your windshield or whatever, Sometimes I went to jail, sometimes they just let me fly. Then, that went on for about a year. And like in 1996, I was over at Don Laughlin's casino because, going to court for all them false arrests that I was getting. And there's one that they wanted for me to go to court for, so I did. And I was at Don Laughlin's parking lot, and so the cops came up there and busted my back and put a few holes in my head, threw me in jail. So I thought, well, it's time to, they had my estate blockaded and would, they keep on beating me up and stuff. So I went to Florida, and I had a bunch of vehicles in my and structures inside of my estate, that had big fences 6 foot high with 3-line barbs on the top, top security stuff. Well, in 1966, see, BLM at this time couldn't do nothing to me, or they would have.
Right.
but they couldn't because they didn't have any jurisdiction to do it because, you know, like I was going through appeals with their boss, and I was getting them, BLM didn't have a leg to stand on against me, so they kind of like backed down from their attempt. But at the in this story, too, I'll tell you where the money was at. It's always follow the money, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, oh, yeah, I forgot one part. Back in 1992, I was at my estate, and I was noticing all of the infrastructure that was being built on. I mean, they put a few $1 million of infrastructure all around my 160 acres. I mean, everything like a casino's going there. And so I took pictures of it with my camcorders and stuff like that. It was amazing. All kinds of underground electricity, telephone, water lines, affluent lines, and the whole works. So then it come like 1995, and I think I mentioned they put the roadblocks around my gates, and then 1996 they beat me, and I went to Florida, and then the turn of the night into January 1997, there was in Laughlin there was a lieutenant commander there for the Las Vegas Metro. The reason I know that he commanded all of his cops to destroy all of my structures and fences, and while I'm in Florida, and I was on appeal too when I went to Florida. That was my last appeal with the Department of Interior Board of Land Appeals. You know, that the property was in abeyance in that court. And this lieutenant guy, the reason I know that he ordered his cops to destroy everything I had there was because the vehicles, see, I had a manager there working for me when they chased me out of town. The manager got a bunch of tickets that was on the vehicles. They impounded the vehicles. I don't know what they did with them. And it had his name on it, Lieutenant Tom Smedley. You know, he impounded all the vehicles. I know that. There was reporters there, local reporters. They took pictures of them doing this and reported nothing. That's because they was in on it too. So, and I guess it was December 19th, 1996. The IBLA entered their final order. And then there's a lot of them leaving out, but in 2005, for years, see, Bruce Woodbury, he was the commissioner. Now, he appointed Jackie Brady as the Laughlin town manager, and they had a town board and all of that stuff. But they kicked me out. She told the police I was stalking her, and I mean, that was so far. I couldn't imagine that. But they threw me in jail for that when I came to her office to serve her a RICO complaint into the state court. You know, all of the stuff they was doing against me. So I get arrested. My father was with me, and just kind of leaning hard on him, and I was about ready to to start throwing on him, but I didn't. So so I was kicked out of the town board. Because of her false charges. I was kicked out of town. I was kicked out of the government centers where the police station is. The police station, when I came there, they had about 15 Metro circle me. And it was I know who was running the show, and I know who embezzled 5,000 acres from the Colorado River Commission that it was the same thing Harry put out, Harry Reid. He was putting press releases for about 7 years, from 1989 till 1996, about how he was going to, it was a really crazy thing. He said, we're going to get BLM land, but I owned it. You know, he didn't say I own it, but he says BLM land, we're going to swap it to the Colorado River Commission. Those are the guys that own the 9,000 acres. And then they was going to give it to the developer, and that's Robert Bilbray, who owns 85% of Laughlin. So that's where the money was, and I was sitting on, like, my property right now, because of all the infrastructure they put underneath my property while he's trying to wiggle it out of me, it should have praised at $64 million right now. But
okay.
After that, huh?
Yeah, one question for you is, what do you suppose was that major land appeal to them? What was on it? Was it minerals? Was it just
well, I told you that I had BLM's mineral. See, they was going to patent 1,280 acres, including my land. But I had that. And another thing, that in 1989, the General Accounting Office went and looked at those mining claims, and they said, hey, this is invalid. But anyway, I had the BLM's mineral contest reversed in 1990, so they couldn't claim there was any minerals on it. And what else could they claim?
Right. Now, when you started noticing infrastructure of various casinos, of something being built, was that actually on your property? When you,
yeah.
In other words,
yeah,
it was on your property.
Oh yeah, they had the tractors in there digging the trenches, putting the pipe in, putting the cable, electrical. Everything, you know, they loaded it up. They even put a new road. But here's something odd too. Okay, in like 1994, Bruce Woodbury had. See, I had a highway running, the big highway running, a desert road running right through on the side of my property. He managed to change the name of my road into his name, Bruce Woodbury Parkway or something like that. You know, because he thought that he could do whatever he wanted to with my land. And the paper, the newspapers, and that television out there, they're saying that I'm a squatter. They started saying that when they finally recognized that I'm there. But, you know, everybody was following the leader. The whole town of Laughlin was Bruce Woodbury stacked up the whole, and it was, and there was him and Harry Reid was working together too on this illustrious plan to, which I seen in the newspaper for years, every week, about how they're going to swap it to all of these different kinds of corporations.
Hey Bob, I have a question for you. I started real estate when I was very young, and I'm just going to tell you how it is in Texas. As I really don't I can't grasp as a Texan. I think the federal government owns 1.9% of our land. Nevada, 80% plus. And I am by no means an expert on farmland. I've very rarely dealt with any type of farmland or ranch land. When I was in real estate, I can just remember every closing. It would be just your basic suburban type house, and whenever we got to the title company, they would say, the buyer does not get, the mineral rights are reserved, and, you don't own, as a buyer, you don't get these mineral rights. Can you kind of explain to us how Nevada works, how the farmland, how the ranch land works
sure.
according?
Sure.
All right, thanks.
Okay. I bought this under the desert land law, and on my, I was drinking wine, and on my Facebook, I have it pretty clear, what the law is, because I've been schooled at for years, before I even bought the land. I bought it under the Desert Land Law. That's the United States Act, and it has the rules in there, and I was following all the rules. And right now, it's up to I should have gotten patent on the land many years ago, but I didn't, because they had this thing where they sold it to Don Laughlin that has the Riverside Resort, founder of the town. And I have tapes from BLM. Yeah, he was soliciting that during all these years too, because he knew all of the infrastructure that Bruce Woodbury had put underneath of my land. And that's where the money, follow the money. That's where the money was. So Harry Reid kind of, his name kind of disappeared after a while. It was me up against the county police and the commissioner and all of those people he pointed to work out there in Laughlin.
Yeah, Bobby, I have to ask you something, and and please be honest with me, straightforward. Have you ever been in any kind of problems in the past with Las Vegas Metro Police as far as why they would come down on you to such an extent? Yeah,
okay. Well, yeah, okay. Let me see. Is why the lieutenant commander got involved at the time. See, Don Laughlin was he had the lieutenant commander. He started running for the Justice of the Peace. That's a county paycheck for working in Laughlin. He didn't want to be the lieutenant anymore, so Don Laughlin financed his whole campaign, and TV2 was his campaign manager. So that's why he did it to me. As soon as he got my lawsuit, my RICO lawsuit, he disappeared from the face of the planet. There's no record of him anymore. I don't know what happened to him, but it scared him so bad he just packed up and went to another country or something.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to get a grasp on. Now, as far as the corruption in that area, and it sounds like it's been going on for some time. The Bundy incident just happened to capture the media's attention, is what I guess I'm gathering from what you're telling me. This has been going on for years. Am I correct?
Definitely. You are
okay.
Right on the head there.
Okay, and that's why I wanted to ask the question, to make sure that the Bundys got the media attention, although this had been going on for years, absent of media attention in the Nevada press and also the national press, and it took now the overreach of BLM with you might say, the arsenal in which they brought to the Bundy facility or to the Bundy ranch to really grab the media's attention on this one in terms of their overreach. And there's no doubt about it.
The simulation. I mean, okay. Harry Reid, he's been a senator there like 20 years, but every Nevada federal judge on the bench, probably he nominated, that are still there, that was passed through the Senate and signed by the presidents in the past. So the funny thing is, back in the same year, 1996, whenever Bundy got the court order from Lloyd George, that's the same year I had a court order, but the only thing, he had no jurisdiction to issue a court order against me because I was appealing the land into the IBLA, and that's why BLM never touched me, because they knew they had no jurisdiction.
Well, that's one thing I found in the Bundy incident, where he had in the past tried to pay his land grazing fees. However, the jurisdiction had changed, and so they would not accept his land grazing fees. And that seemed to be occurring a lot with people who had settlements on public lands in this area. So it becomes hard to say who owes what, and because obviously the government has no clue as to who owes what, who owes when, who owes and when they owed it, because of the infrastructure or the boundary lines keep changing. Is that true?
Not exactly. I got my quarter markers that was put down from the BLM in 1946, and they're still there.
Okay. I'm not sure. I'm going to go ahead and open up area code 205. They've been on hold for 22 minutes. I don't know if they have a valid question to ask, but we'll go ahead and see. Area code 205. Go ahead. You're live on the air.
It's me. It's Sheila.
Oh, hey, Sheila. How you doing?
Hey,
Great
how
to
are
have
you?
you back on.
Just been listening.
Oh, okay. Well, just let me know on chat if you feel like you'd like to chime in. Be glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm just trying to get a grasp. I'm not quite clear on everything yet.
Okay. Hopefully we'll get there.
I'd like some questions that might shed a little bit of light on everything that's going on.
Sheila, did you have some questions you wanted to pose, or?
Well, I may have missed something in the beginning, but I'm trying to figure out how he purchased land in the first place that they said he can't have afterwards, and why they're at. What is the charge? What are they telling him it's not his land after he purchased it?
Yeah,
That's
good question.
where I'm a little unclear.
Well, I went over that at the opening of this session here.
Well, I'm sorry, I may have missed it.
I bought it under the Desert Land Law of the United States. It's Title 43, United States Code 321. And
you were supposed to reclaim the land by using water or irrigating the land. Is that the way it works?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And there's and I went through the appeals. They said it was mineral in character, because it had mining claims on it. And at that time, the BLM put a legal notice in the mail, in the newspaper, and they said that they're going to issue a mineral patent on 1,280 acres, which included my land. So I appealed it. It took me 2 years to appeal it, and I got their contest reversed. So it wasn't mineral land. It was desert land.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what do they do to come in and determine if it's mineral land? Do they come in and actually, bring in individuals from outside to come in and mine for minerals to see if minerals are on that land, in which they can? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's called the Rojas mining claims. There were 64 of them. That's how it accumulated to be 1,280 acres. They dug a couple of holes and brought the dirt to a appraiser, And then during my appeal, they said, "Hey, we went out of business because of some reason." And they brought that to the attention of my appeal. That, hey, they're not even. That was after the General Accounting Office went over there from Washington and said, "Hey, there ain't no minerals here." So that's how I got it reversed. Because I put
it was
up
a local or a state court? I'm sorry. Was that a local or a state court that reversed it? It was a
no,
state
that's
court?
in Arlington, Virginia. That's the Department of Interior Board of Land Appeals.
Okay. And then how did they end up actually charging you with any reason to take the land? Because like in Texas, here in Alabama, you buy the land, but you don't buy the mineral rights anyway. So even if there were mineral rights on the land in Alabama, they couldn't take the land. They would just take the minerals off the land, right? I don't understand how they use that to take your land.
This is Nevada law. It's the authorities do what they want to do. That's the biggest. The whole place is corrupt.
So what did they charge you with? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I broke no laws. Laws. They haven't got me.
Well, see, that's just it. That's one of the confusions that most people don't realize with these public land holdings, and then plus your ability to purchase the land, and they can come back at any time and say that, you no longer can claim ownership to the land. Now the land belongs back to the state of Nevada,
right,
or to the Bureau of Land
BLM.
Management.
Right. But the thing is, it didn't go that way, though. In my case, like I said, Commissioner Bruce Woodbury, all those people, see, he appointed all of the goons down there in Laughlin, to run the town manager, the board, Laughlin board, and all of the government down there. So is what they did. It took them a few years to do this, and they all did it. They was writing secret letters to each other, and I got a hold of a few of them, quite a few of them. The letters they was doing to swap it with these various people, and I said, hey, wait a minute, I own it, So I was serving them trespass notices to stay away from my land and quit all of this conspiracy here. And then in 2000, after years of them doing that, they formed a BLM land auction, and they erased my serial number, which was N-49548. And they erased that from the master title plat, and they put a private exchange. First of all, they put a Colorado River Commission. They wanted to exchange it to them, and then they erased that and they put something else. And then in 2005 they had a land auction where Don Laughlin purchased 80 acres of my 160. That's still in court right now.
Now,
hey, Bobby,
tell me,
Lisa put something on the chat here. I'm not sure if you're reading the chat, but she put patented mines are worth astronomically more than a regular mine. To get a patent, it has to be proven to hold substantial minerals of value. A patent gives the owner the rights of minerals, water, and land. They can put buildings on it, sell it off in blocks, and is immune from most U.S. laws. Do you have a patent on those minerals?
No, I'm not a miner. I had that reversed in appeal. There's no mineral.
the land in which you held? Could somebody have a patent on those minerals or claim a patent?
No, they can't. They've already tried to process a mineral patent on my land, and that was reversed. There's no claim. The only claim on my land right now is Don Laughlin is saying that he bought it from the Bureau of Land Management.
Okay. Now that brings me to my next question. Now, who is the player, Don Laughlin? Tell me a little bit about him.
Okay, he's the founder of the town of Laughlin. He got in there in 1968. He put a little teeny casino there. From there, I tell you what I know from looking at doing title searches. They embezzled 5,000. Robert Bilberry mainly. They embezzled with Commissioner Woodbury pulling the strings. They embezzled 5,000 acres of what is Laughlin now into their name. You know, so where you go to the county clerk, and you'll see that Robert Bilberry Corporations, which is RB Properties, South Point Properties, South Point Industries. Now, Robert Bilberry is the only member of his corporations. You know, he's president, secretary, and treasurer of the whole thing. Go to the county clerk, the records will show that he owns 85% of the land in Laughlin. And he had these developers. He subdivided it all and would sell it to developers. Now, if you go to the assessor, it may show that somebody else, like D.R. Horton or somebody like that, would be saying that they pay taxes on it. But you go to the county clerk, and who owns it? Robert Bilberry Corporations. And how he got it? I asked in 1996, I called up the Attorney General for the Colorado River Commission. I say, how come Robert Bilberry's got all of that 85% of Laughlin, and there's no record he even paid anything for it? And so they said, hey, we don't know anything about Robert Bilberry. They said, they gave me the patent, how they got it from BLM in 1964. But then they gave me the names of some names that were artificial corporations. So that's how, they didn't exist. From the Secretary of State, there's no record of them. So anyway, he ended up with 85% of Laughlin. Laughlin ended up with the other 15%, which he sold to other casinos too, for $1 million an acre there on the river. I'm talking the Laughlin Flamingo or Tropicana, whatever it is, and Harrah's. Robert Bilberry owns where Harrah's is at. Go to the county clerk. He owns that property. He's the landlord, and he paid nothing for it. See that? I mean, this is a big deal.
This is the same exact thing that Lisa unfolded with the Reed Bunkerville properties. There's documented numbers there for the plots of land. You go into the history at the Clark County Tax Assessor's Office, and all the records have physically disappeared. This sounds a lot. It sounds like the state of Nevada has a bad habit of losing records on a lot of properties.
Is what they do is go ahead.
No, I was saying the correlation.
Okay, yeah, Lisa, could you call in? I mean, if you don't mind, would it be possible? I think this is a good time for you to interject.
I want to say something important though first. That is the exact reason why all of the boneheads in Nevada, the politicians, I'm speaking of the politicians, they don't want that land for people to own it. They want it to stay tied up. with BLM so everybody can jump in there and put it in their corporations. They never, believe me, I know for a fact that after a politician, whether it's local or federal, gets in for a while, they know how easy the land grab is. And Harry Reid made a perfect example out of himself in the Bundy Ranch. I've got 6 years of pictures of him trying to swap my land. It's a crazy thing how he done it. How could he be so foolish?
Do the local news reporters down there ever look into any of this in Nevada?
No, they just take press releases and they'll swear up and down to every lie that Harry Reid says.
Bobby,
that sounds about right, doesn't it? the way journalism is going these days.
Bobby, I have to ask if how many of you are there? In other words, how many of you have abided, within the laws and only to be ran out by one stipulation to another or to another and never have any real solid evidence as to why you're basically being run off of your homestead? Is it in the hundreds and the thousands?
Well, take the Bundy Ranch. If you're following that, there was 52 ranchers there in that vicinity. He's the last one. BLM drove them all out because guess what? If he would have paid those grazing fees, I can't understand. He don't say that's his main reason. I did hear him say that a few times though. The biggest reason he didn't want to pay his grazing fees after 1993 was because the BLM was making all of these like environmentally sensitive creatures, tortoise and that kind of stuff, and telling him to reduce his cattle because of this and that and the other, where he couldn't exist. They already drove out 51 ranchers right there in the location, and he's the last one standing. They tried that tortoise thing with me too in 1994. I told them to take it up with the county. The county has a response division. I said, if you got a complaint against me, you ain't, there's authority that deals with that.
Okay.
That's the county response.
Yeah, Bobby, I think I may have Lisa on the line, and if it is, she's done a lot of research at the tax assessor's office and has come up with the evidence of exactly what you are stating. That,
yeah, I know.
There is a, put it this way, there is a small bit of a paper trail there, but it ends. It starts and then it ends. It never goes into any detail as to what happened with it from the beginning and then what happened with it till, from there on in. But I believe this is Lisa. I'm going to go ahead and open up our mic. Lisa, is that you?
Hi. Yes, it's me.
Oh, hey, gal. How you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. How are you?
All right. Yeah, I thought it would be a good time because I was able to take a gander at some of the documents that you had found, which were some of the most incomplete documents I think I've ever seen in my life. That had a.
That's how they do it.
Yep.
Well, these actually had Harry Reid's name on them, and they were tax assessor documents, and there were no money figures on these documents. Absolutely none.
Yeah,
And
there's no land that he paid $75,000 for. Now it has $0 value, and no taxes are paid on it.
Guess what else, Lisa? Guess what else? They always put it on the there's when you file the things with the recorder, you can be exempt from all of that stuff if you're a county employee.
Yep, that's
public.
Mhm. That's correct. Now I want to go back to some of Bobby's stories so everybody can kind of understand. When Bobby is saying that he didn't care about the patent on the mine, he's not a miner. If I were going to go buy land, honestly, I wouldn't care about the minerals on it either if I wasn't interested in mining it. If I was going to build a house or just, make a land out of it for myself, I would not care, okay? The only people that care about a patent mine claim are the BLM and people that want to mine the land. Okay, back in the 70s, there was something called the Homesteaders Act. Okay, after that, when Congress passed that, you cannot patent a mine again. So when Bobby went and had that reversed, the BLM was like, whoa, now we can't get as much money for this land. We have investors. We have people that might want to dig these minerals up. That's why they wanted that patent put back on that land. Patented land, mining land, is worth so much more money than just a regular mine land, okay? And it gives the owner water rights. It gives them access rights. It gives them rights to put buildings, whether it's a casino or whatever you want on it. You can do that, and you can mine it at a later date, okay? So this Don Laughlin is a big deal down there because I actually deal with a lot of the casinos down there. I sell some stuff to them. And Don Laughlin's a big deal. His fingers were in everything down there. He's invested pretty much in every single thing down there. Don Laughlin has a long-term plan, and I personally think Don Laughlin's long-term plan was to see ENN come in there along with Harry Reid and put a solar field in there. Didn't happen, but he still has those mineral rights he can fall back on. Okay? There was a mineral survey company down there 2.5 weeks ago in the Laughlin area, right where Bobby is talking about. And I know this because I had 2 people from Laughlin call me and tell me. And Bobby's documents, I was at the assessor's office, the Clark County assessor's office on Grand Central Parkway last week. There is no document that exists for Bobby Franklin, not even in the plat map book. Nothing is there, not one document.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
So his land
That
is very, very valuable because it had a patent mine claim on it. You can only get that if there's proven they have actually done surveys and dug into the earth and said, yes, there are rare minerals. Do you know the number 1 mine and the number 2 mine that have these patents on it here in the U.S.? Gold and silver.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the top 2 mines. And guess who in Nevada owns the most patented mines right now? The BLM. That's proven and documented.
I think, Lisa, I'm a Texan, Sheila and Micah from Alabama. It's really hard for us to even grasp this land grab. It boggles my mind. It
really does. And I can't understand
how did Nevada end up like this in the first place?
Well, the liberals claim it was the Constitution of 1864 when Nevada became a state that they signed that they put in their Constitution that we give up all of our land rights to the United States.
Right. Wow. It's true though. Bobby is correct. I mean, the whole thing of Bobby's story is so unbelievable because he was sitting on land that the BLM wanted but mistakenly sold. Then they had like basically a proverbial oh shit moment when they realized we sold land that had patented mining claims on it. I mean, that's a huge astronomical mistake. And Bobby's right. Back then they had no jurisdiction to do anything to him. All they could basically do was show up and just piss in his face and just give him a hard time. They had no jurisdiction to do what they did to Clive and Bundy.
Right.
No. Are you seeing, now that the Bundy Ranch has happened and we're hearing Bobby's story, are you now seeing it? So you're right there on the ground floor. Are you seeing more ranchers and farmers landowners saying, hey, I think I'm going to go against the government too? Or are people starting, is this ball rolling now, or is it still just Bobby and Clive and Bundy?
No, absolutely. There's more stepping up. Utah is now, I just read the other day, was it yesterday, that they're now passing a law that the BLM and federal agents can't be armed on their land. Now we have a 9-state Western coalition coming together to take back the land from the federal government. Ted Cruz today fired off one heck of a letter to the BLM about the attempted land grab they're trying to do down there. So this whole thing, it's unfortunate that Bobby's story didn't get told sooner, because this all could have been prevented if somebody had just listened to him. He has the documents. He has the paperwork that shows the paper trail. The stuff that on Clive and Bundy's side where Harry Reid's involved, it's all been scrubbed. Like, we can go back so far. Do you know that at the tax assessor's office, the tax rolls have been wiped clean?
I've looked him up. You can't find a lot of information about him on the internet even. And the things I have found are not in his favor. So, it has been scrubbed. Whatever he has in his hands, he should keep very close to his desk.
He has a lot of his documents on his Facebook page. And I
did see that. Yes.
Yeah,
there's a lot of shuffling too that goes around, like the living trust and all of that with other people, and
see what they do is Harry Reid.
So they funnel it under different corporate names.
That's exactly right, Bobby. They do. They funnel it between Reid Bunkerville Trust, Reid Trust, Reid Family Trust. Then Rory Reid has a trust, him and his wife Cynthia, and then Landra, Harry's wife, has a trust. This thing is so incestuous, it's not even funny. And they just change it from corporation to corporation. These corporations don't even exist, because Bobby's right. I went on the Nevada state site. Half of these corporations don't even exist that Harry Reid lists. In some of the documents I found, they don't even list. They're not real companies. They're just companies on a piece of paper.
And if nobody claims otherwise, they stay there. They'll go file it, and if the real owner don't have any objections, then the record stays.
That's right. And, I did find one document that I thought was really interesting when I was at the assessor's office. I came across it by accident. Harry Reid was actually sued years ago by a guy named Rodney Levitt, okay? Rodney Levitt claimed the same exact thing Bobby's claiming and the same exact thing that Clive and Bundy is claiming, okay? But it was directly to Harry Reid. Harry Reid took his land. This guy sued Harry Reid and won. He produced all of his tax documents because Harry Reid tried to say, well, he didn't pay his taxes on time. He was like $6 short or whatever it was. This guy laid out a timeline of every single thing his family had paid on this property for 100 years. This guy actually won. So that document is, while it was last week, I don't know if it is anymore, because I tried to assess the tax rolls today online. What was there 3 days ago is not there anymore. They've scrubbed it.
But, that brings up the real uncomfortable issue of what's happening in the courts, because I'm looking at some of the documents right now online, like one in 2013, where it says, for the foregoing reasons, it's ordered that the motion for reconsideration is denied to the court. And if he has all his papers and he has proof, what's happening in the courts? Why would the district court deny it? Are they being bought off too? I hate to say that on
you bet you they are.
What is going on?
Harry Reid has done a good job of stacking liberal, left-leaning judges all over the state of Nevada, period. If you go
the federal bench is full of them. That's the only thing there. I've been to almost every one of them.
That's why I'm so glad Bobby got to.
And it's still in a stalemate. My property is still in a stalemate, but next week I'm going to put, after I got something processing, it's a legal document. I'll put it on my Facebook when I get it back. I has to go through snail mail to get it officially stamped. From the government people. I'll put it on my line and. It'll shed some light to this.
Well, this is very disturbing, I'll have to say. Very disturbing.
Well, it is very disturbing because apparently we've got a rogue U.S. senator who's got the IRS, not only on a state level, but a federal level, tied up in the palm of his hand, and he can go up against any individual in the state of Nevada and basically grant his wish, or give him his way.
Everybody there will swear to every lie that he tells.
Mhm.
All of the judges will. Oh yeah, well Harry Reid said that, so we're going to rubber stamp it.
Yeah, Lisa. Lisa, you're Spitfire, man. If I were you, you're in Nevada right now, I'd grab a local reporter, take him down to that assessor's office, and say, "Where the hell are these documents?" Open their eyes, make them investigate.
There's no reporter here that will do it.
Why? I mean, are they
right.
that?
There isn't. You should. You should. I guess this is Brent, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The local reporters. Well, if Harry Reid says so, yes, that's the law.
And what I know a lot of the hotels here in Vegas and Laughlin and Mesquite. I work within all of them, and I can tell you he is deeply entrenched in every one of these hotels, except for Steve Wynn's properties and Venetian Palazzo. He's not those two, but every other one he is. Anything that Harry Reid wants, Harry Reid gets. A couple of years ago, last election cycle, I started seeing all of these election booths being put up in the basement of the hotels because I work with the engineers. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? So I started asking around. I'm like, why do you have voting booths in your basement? And they're like, well, Harry Reid asked us to put them here for union votes that are undocumented and illegal. I went. I took pictures and sent it to the media.
They have voting booths in their basement, in the casinos.
Yes.
Oh, they love it. They love the corruption.
Yes, and it was all
especially
of the
Vegas.
It was the illegals doing the voting. That's how Harry Reid won. How do you think he went from a 6% negative at 11 o'clock at night, at 4 o'clock in the morning, he had a 10% surge? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really? It was
That's
gosh.
I mean, I had pictures of it. I tried to send it. I tried to get people to talk about it. Nobody seemed to care. They didn't think it was a big thing. You had voting booths in the basement of, big hotels. All of them. Not one, not two, all of them. And I'm
Lisa, have you gone to anyone outside of the state that wouldn't have a vested interest in any of this?
Sure did.
And they're not interested either?
Nope. Nobody wants to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Well, he's the majority leader of the Senate, and pretty
powerful.
much. Yeah. He's,
and real quick, I want to interject. Sheila, Lisa, I don't think y'all know each other. Lisa is in Nevada, and gosh, she does so much research, it's ridiculous. And Lisa, Sheila is a former ATF. She got injured on the job. She's a private investigator now, also a professor. I just want to introduce you two. Didn't know if y'all know each other.
No, I don't. What is your last name, Lisa? Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. Why don't you just say my last name is Stephen. Sheila L. Stevens. Send me a friend request. How about that? Okay.
Okay, that's
if you want
I'll
to
do that.
I don't know what I was thinking there for a second.
Her last name is
never mind. Smith.
Yeah.
Jones.
Sheila Nevada. Yeah, Sheila Nevada. Yeah.
Lisa has perfect grammar.
Hey, I'm already outed. I'm already outed so badly that it won't even matter. The things I've been saying on my page.
But it's hard to fathom that Reid has embedded himself so deep on a state level that pretty much there is no state level I mean, that's...
Well, what is it? It's like 244 million acres in Nevada he's in charge with. Now, it's a simple fact, and I know this from my experience with him through all the years and through the BLM, that he runs the BLM. And I was there, and I still see him. Now, the press is going to put out, like, here's what President Obama put out, executive order. No, it ain't him doing it. It ain't Secretary Salazar. You know who it is? It's Harry Reid.
That's exactly right. And going back to the BLM connections, Bobby is very right, because the guy who just nominated, that Neil Korn, if you look up Neil's daddy, Larry, look what Neil's daddy is invested in and takes care of. Gold mines.
Did you forget the point, too, that the director of BLM right now is Reid's ex-chief aide?
Yep, he's directly tied to Reid. So what Reid did, I think, this is just my assumption, Reid took a guy whose dad goes in and invests to dig into the mines, what Harry Reid has done that I have found through a lot of quit claim deeds that he has done down in Searchlight. He has gone and bought and has the rights to all of these gold mines. I think there's like 11 that I found so far. They're all through quit claim deeds, okay? So Harry Reid owns the patented rights to all of these gold mines. Even though they're not operating, some of them aren't operating, he still owns it. So I think what he did is he went in and put Neil there. Now Neil can go in and grab all of the land he wants that's owned by private people or that has grazing rights like Clive and Bundy or Bobby, private land that he legally bought, take it because it has mineral rights on it. And guess what? Harry Reid then can say, here, Larry, you can now dig on this land. We're going to lease this land to you. You can extract the minerals.
That's what blew me away, Lisa. Whenever you first sent me those documents, probably a week or two ago, and I saw the word quit claim, I was like, you have got to be joking me. Nobody does quit claim. Quit claim is almost a non-existent way to transfer it.
That's how I got one of my properties. But that's another story, though.
Well, here in Texas, it just doesn't happen very often.
It doesn't here either very often.
But every property he has is through a quit claim deed. And I found documentation that land that Harry Reid owns in Searchlight that's considered quote-unquote vacant has no property value. There's no mineral study attached to it. There's land.
No money trace.
Right. When you plat it out on a map, it actually matches up to the BLM map we got our hands on 2 weeks ago that shows the solar development for Searchlight. It's the same land. And Harry Reid just happens to own it.
Wow. I hope Fox News is listening. I really hope Fox News is listening right now.
Well, I have the documents. I can prove it.
Yeah.
I've already plotted it all out. I mean, they give you longitude and latitude. They give you everything you need to know. And the BLM was nice enough to supply in their documents that were taken from their website when the firewall was down. They were nice enough to, lay everything out for you. They gave you the whole kit and caboodle of everything they plan to do in that area.
Oh, yeah.
You know what makes this so... Go ahead.
I've got the maps. Thank you, Lisa. I got them.
You're welcome.
But, what makes this so difficult, though, is that it's not just one thing they want this for. They want it for multiple reasons. So when you start pointing in one direction, they can say, no, we're doing it for this reason. Or one thing I think they really want is the energy complex with China.
Yep.
I think that's a humongous thing. Yeah, that's one of the biggest things. And they've got to have a lot of land for that, a lot of space, right? It's and the water rights, that's a huge thing as well. Plus,
that's a big one.
I was reading another couple of articles that were talking about the food industry, how the government and many people in the government are actually trying to get in to they want the land for crops, for actually growing food, because we're not doing so much of that anymore, right? and they're trying to discourage the small farmer and the small ranchers off the land so that they can control the food, control the people. And that sounds a little conspiratorial maybe to some people, but on a very large scale, I think there are people that want to do that. And this deal with China through that, what's the man's name, Wang Yuso, who's a friend of Harry Reid, and his son-in-law actually is in the firm that represents this man's company.
Oh, sure.
Harry Reid's son-in-law. Yeah, that's
Lionel
what they
and Sawyer.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's not one thing. It's multiple things. It's like they've got a handful of stuff, a handful of reasons why they want this land. So it's hard to pin them down.
Oh, yeah. The uses of what they want this land for is, I mean, well, according to the maps, when Lisa said the firewall was opened up, they had thought they had closed it down, but they had left it wide open, and there were, several hundred, maybe thousands of people were notified about it, and it showed every single instance of a geothermal plant and where it was plotted in Utah, Nevada, all the adjacent states, including solar panels. It had the action plans to go along with the map and who the company was they were dealing with, and it was very interesting, to go out, and I got about 119 megos. I don't know how many Lisa got, but it was a brilliant find on her part because it shows you exactly what BLM is up to, and it has nothing to do with the land rights of any particular individual. It has everything to do with the land rights being used for foreign countries, and maybe not so foreign countries, but we're talking about big bucks, but we're also talking at the same time basically the running off or the omission of people like Cliven Bundy, people like Bobby Franklin, or other ranchers or farmers or people who are going to use that to grow crops or whatever, or raise cattle, which, hey, is our food supply. It can't be replaced. And my question is, I mean, there's got to be hundreds of these people who are just looking for some glimmer of hope to where they can share their story. And I guess another one of my questions is who's going to take this story where these other people can come out?
Well, I have an answer for that question. I think a lot of like the 51 ranchers over there where Clyde Bundy is at, and people all over the state of Nevada, they disappeared. Now you look at me. Yeah, they thought I would disappear a long time ago. Just cut me off of circulation of being a citizen in Nevada. So that's why I'm here in Texas, because I can't go to Laughlin. I'll be surrounded.
Well,
this is what the Constitution was designed to prevent. All of this is an overreaching government with its own interests taking over the interest of one person. I mean, that's why we have a republic instead of a democracy. One person matters. One person's land matters. And yet they're saying it doesn't. They're coming in and taking these people's land for interests that have nothing to do with the ordinary citizens. And I don't know, I just think it's time that we're going to have to do something about it.
Well, it's like Clyde Bundy. It's like Clyde Bundy, and you know, he had the injunction for BLM to come and wipe him out, and I wouldn't be talking here today if it wasn't for Clyde Bundy. You know, he wiped his ass on that with that injunction just the same as I did, because that Lloyd George, he didn't even have no jurisdiction on my land because my land was on appeal in the Department of Interior Board of Land Appeals. So that's why BLM, they knew that they couldn't touch me.
What I'm worried about is now that Clyde Bundy said that remark about slavery, which I totally 100% understood exactly what he was saying. I have a 93-year-old grandfather. My grandfather was not racist. He would have probably explained the terms of what he did was basically explain cloud privilege in the best way he knew how. He was saying the government overreach has gotten so bad, it's taken these black families, and it made Clyde Bundy sad. I mean, I recognize that right off the bat. And then you had your little pundits that, you know, they came in and they just jumped on him.
The press got a hold of that. The press got a hold of that and twisted that around in about 20 notches, and now he's a domestic terrorist.
Exactly. But my question is this, and Lisa, you probably know more than I do about this, but I was listening to Mark Levin, and a caller called in from Kansas. His family were farmers, and they were talking about the progression of the BLM. The guy used an example. He said, okay, say you got 1,000 head of cattle. You pay your grazing fees for 1,000 head of cattle back in, say, 1947. Well, then here comes 1976, and they say, well, now we've got an endangered species, and out of those 1,000 cattle, you can only have the assets for the grazing fees of $750. And then 1993 comes along, and they say, well, you know, this desert tortoise is here, and man, it's about to die. Am I making any sense here? Is this how this progresses? Yes. I think America's missing that point of it.
Yeah, it's the baby steps that they're taking us through, and we're not noticing. We turn around and say, what happened? Is that what you're talking about? Little progressive steps, and then suddenly, what is this? Where are we now?
I think America's missing that point. This is a progression.
It
started off really in the 1930s with FDR, and the government keeps chipping away. And this is a rancher's paycheck. This is Bobby's land, you know.
Now it's worth $64 million. Hey, I didn't do it.
Oh, yeah.
Hey guys, I'm gonna go ahead and Lisa had dropped off. I'm gonna go ahead and open her mic back up. Okay, Lisa, you're back on.
Hi. Okay, so you said I might know a little bit about what's the whole cattle thing. Well, what the government has done, if you go back, there's a guy named Roy Elliker. Okay, he is the head of the Wildlife Federation. Back in the 90s, he had this thing that he called Cattle Free by 93. Okay, it was an actual initiative drive to get ranchers off of ranch land, to get rid of all the horses and all of the cattle. He didn't want any more out there, and he actually coined this Cattle Free by 93, and to get rid of the cowboys. Okay, he wanted everything gone so it could be turned into federal lands. This guy, Roy Elliker, has been tied directly in paperwork to Wayne Haig. Everybody remembers him. He's the one that put the video out that kind of outed all of this when Clive Bundy came along, and he was like, hey, this is what happened to me, and they kept moving the goalposts, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that, so he can fly.
Guess who his judge was? It was Judge Jones.
Yep, exactly.
That's the guy I'm on appeal with right now.
Oh, my God. Oh, but it is a real leftist agenda at work. I mean, the Wildlife Federation did this. You can look it up. The guy even has a paper online where he gave a class that I posted, and it actually laid out exactly how they were going to do it. They were going to make grazing fees so expensive and put so many regulations down on these farmers that it was going to be impossible to make a dollar. And he actually said something to the effect in one of his speeches that I watched that the best sight you'll ever see is the last cow being loaded up onto a truck and the farmer closing up his farm.
It's worked pretty good for him, huh?
This thing he's been working on this since the 80s, this Roy Elliker, and he has been involved in all of this since the late 80s.
That rings a bell to me also.
And he was no doubt involved in yours because he wanted all the land cleared of all the cattle, all the horses, everything. He wanted it for private industry development.
Oh,
tied to.
And he's only one element because then there's the environmentalists who want us all to move into cities and leave the land, without a human footprint on it. So that's the other.
Right, exactly.
Element.
No cars allowed in this rocky desert out here with sidewinders.
Right.
You can't use any cars or anything out here.
No, you can't. In the area Bobby's talking about, I know it very well. You can't. And the same exact thing is where Clive Bundy lives. Because when we first went there, my husband and I, where Clive lives is like 2 miles off of the main road when you get off of 93. He lives 2 miles off of that one main road. And then we drove about 17 miles past Clive's house. It's not a road anymore. You can't drive on it, not with a regular vehicle. And the government has actually put up signs that warns you that you're going to get a flat tire. I'm not kidding.
You're kidding me. Oh, my God.
I mean,
also they like to put up fences and they say no trespassing.
Oh, yeah. That's all over. If you drive down to Laughlin, if you go from Vegas to Laughlin, the entire way down there's a fence with that stupid thing on it. Conservation area, right? And yet you'll see guys riding dirt bikes all over it and stuff, and it's like, really, come on. What are you trying to conserve? It's like dirt and rock. There's nothing there.
Right. Hey, let's face it. And Nellis Air Force Base, where they did all of the nuclear testing for the atomic bombs, they didn't have no concern about environmental stuff then. I mean, they blew up all kinds of atomic bombs underground,
and the Virgin River is by it, and they didn't care about water contamination.
You can drop bombs on the desert, and it's still going to look the same. Those tortoises are still going to be there. The rattlesnakes will still be there. You could throw as many bombs as you want to in the middle of Nevada, and you're not gonna hurt anything there.
Nope.
But these people have such a strange mindset though, because they call themselves progressives, but they're like backwards, because here in Alabama we have a lot of timber industry. So there's people actually that they don't want us to cut down the trees. Don't cut down the trees because they're the trees. But people who are in the industry know that you manage the trees. You don't just leave it, right? Because you leave it and it all gets overgrown, and then they die and they get in this strange, brambly situation where none of the trees are healthy. So they manage them and they thin them out and they sell them and use them and they plant more. That's renewable resources. And these people seem to think that there's not enough of anything, not enough trees, not enough of the land, not enough. They have a lack.
Clyde Bundy certainly has been a good steward for for his grazing property for over 100 years, and
yes.
You know, he's the only one that BLM didn't put any improvements on his property. He did.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, another thing, Harry Reid on a couple of his documents is claiming, like, you know, family property. Well, how is it that Harry Reid can go in and say, well, this is ancestral property, I'm entitled to it, even though it's only been in his family for 60 years, but Cliven Bundy has documentation that goes back to 1877 for grazing rights and homesteading, and the government says, no, you can't have that, but Harry Reid can? Really? How is that even possible?
Really?
I know. That's why I can't understand why nobody has argued any kind of grandfathering of anything for that man. I mean, when new regulations and laws are passed, normally the people living under the old ones are grandfathered in.
Yep.
Right?
I believe Cliven was. He was grandfathered in. But the BLM basically is saying they just don't care. The judge, whoever is the judge over this, is like, don't care, don't matter. You know, tortoises are more important. But yet Harry Reid has land that has tortoises on it, too. And he gets all
the mitigation section is over there on Clyde Bundy's ranch. That's where they intended to put all of those poor little turtles wandering around.
Yep.
That was their mitigate, and that's the thing that disappeared from the internet. The BLM, the BLM had on there where the mitigation section was, and that was Clyde Bundy's land, and that's why they came in with helicopters to get rid of all it and kill his cattle and what have you.
Yeah.
Because they.
Yeah. I just think the federal government should not own these lands, and I don't really think they do. I mean, if you split hairs, we own those lands. I don't like to hear them called federal land or government land. I like to hear them called public lands, because
public land.
Yeah, they don't have any money. We gave them the money to purchase anything that they purchased. So I would like to see those lands returned to the states or even sold to individuals. I don't like the way things are going now. I don't like them to continue to take more of these lands, and I don't know what we're going to be able to do to stop it or even reverse it. But I think, Lisa, did you say something about the governors of 11 states that are working to...
Yeah, there's 9 states that are getting together out west at their meeting, trying to figure out what can we do to take our lands back from the federal government. And Utah and Texas looks like they're taking the lead because, you know, their attorney general
and governor.
The governor, and then Ted Cruz all fired off pretty much nasty letters like, come on our land and see what's going to meet you when you step on our land. Then Utah actually introduced legislation to strip government agencies of any kind of firearms. They can't come on Utah land with firearms.
Really?
Yeah, that's Utah has it right now. Yep, they've introduced legislation to strip all federal agencies of their firearms.
Well, what does a regulation agency need with firearms anyway? They're not an enforcement agency. They're a regulation agency.
Exactly. They're not legitimate police. They have no jurisdiction over this as far as like a police type thing does. There's no jurisdiction for them to come and act like a police officer, in my opinion.
No.
What the BLM did was criminal. We were there that day. We know what went down. We were there. They were not BLM agents. They were pretending to be some kind of a police officer. They're not.
Lisa, you were there. I mean, you were there in the thick of it. Can you kind of give us? I've seen your Facebook post, but I just kind of like to hear it in your own words. Tell us what that day was like. That 30 minutes. I know you were stressed.
So, well, also too, were there outside contractors there? Did the BLM actually bring in outside contractors?
This is where I kind of got to be careful. I do have a source that has told me those were not BLM agents. That one person in particular was identified, and they did work for Blackwater. Now, I've been told that. I've not posted on Facebook because I haven't verified it yet. If I can't verify it, I don't talk about it. I don't post any names or anything like that. I'm really good about it. But if I can get my hands on the documentation to prove it, you better believe I'm going to be blasting that one.
Are you talking now? Blackwater doesn't exist under Blackwater anymore. That's
no,
not
it
its name.
was XE, and then they changed their name again to something starting with A. I lost track. They've had to change their name so many times.
And they have two different branches. They have a training, I think, branch, and they have the other one.
Well, so the day we were there, where do you want me to start? I don't know, because it was just like, I don't think anybody that woke up that morning had anticipated anything like that. I mean, certainly nobody there anticipated that, okay, I'm going to get up, I'm going to brush my teeth and eat my breakfast, and I'm going to go, gun to gun with the feds. Nobody thought that. We just, kind of went thinking, hey, it's going to be a day like it's been every other day this week. We're going to go. We're going to try to help this family. We're going to make sure that we're here so that the BLM can't come in. They can't do anything to this family. If there's enough of us, they're not going to open fire. And the plan was just to go and get the cattle. We knew we were going to go get the cattle. We knew that. We had, we had contacted a lot of cowboys throughout a 5-state area. Some of them drove 40 hours to get there with their own trucks, their own horses, their own dogs. So we got professional cowboys to come in and herd these cattle. So after when Cliven was talking, and I think it was Pete Santelli called the sheriff, and the sheriff never came back. He never responded to Cliven's demands or questions or anything. That's when Cliven stood there and he said, "Cowboys, grab your guns." He's like, "We're going to get the cattle." And and then it was announced, please leave your rifles in your car. Don't take your rifles. So I think everybody pretty much listened to that, other than the guys that were up on the bridge. Everybody did have their firearms on them. They were holstered, though, okay? So everybody got in their cars, and cowboys took off to the right, out over into the Virgin River area, up over the mountain, and they disappeared. And we all got in our cars, and we drove all the way down to 93. We turned right. We made our way onto 93, and we started lining our cars up off to the side, and we waited. And as we waited, the cowboys started coming up. They came up over the side of the overpass, and they started blocking traffic to keep everyone safe. Now, the children were kept up on the overpass or in the car, okay? I can tell you there was no children down underneath the overpass. There was not one. So I want to dispel that right now. Women were not told to go out front. If we chose to be there, it's because we chose to be there. And the cowboys then, when traffic got blocked, made their way back down around. All of the militia lined up onto the bridge. And I want this to be understood. The BLM tried to make, and Harry Reid tried to make a big deal saying that, federal agents could have been killed. There were snipers above the bridge throughout. They were placed throughout the mountainside. We could see them with our bare eyes. So even though our militia guys had their guns on the BLM, the snipers, government snipers, had their guns on the militia. I want that to be understood, because that's one of the biggest misconceptions that I get very upset about. So when the cowboys came back down, everybody kind of started forming like a funnel going towards where the BLM was at, where they had the cattle. And, we just kept saying, we're not doing anything. We're just here to get the cattle. We don't want any problems, blah, blah, blah. They just played this ridiculous thing on a loop. Like it was just a recorded, drop your guns, get back, we're gonna fire, all this other nonsense. They just kept playing it on a loop. And as they played it, I don't know, it was so weird, because we're looking at these federal agents and they have these guns pointed at us. But I think everybody understood. I think everybody knew they're not going to shoot us.
Can I interject something to that?
Yeah.
The sheriff claimed no jurisdiction. The governor claimed, no jurisdiction over Metro to keep the Bundy family and the protesters safe. Governor Sandoval of Nevada, he didn't claim no jurisdiction. He could have called in the National Guard, tell everybody to go home. But the thing is, Governor Sandoval is like, okay, Harry Reid got him into being a federal judge back a decade ago. He's the federal judge that expunged. He's the first one. Jones was the second one. but he's the first one that expunged my statutory title deed out of the county recorder, but he didn't review the statute, the federal statute, in my title. You know, and then after he did that, he became the governor of Nevada. I'm sure Harry Reid that was, you know, he'd be a better flanker as a governor than he would be as a judge for what happened to the Bundys. You know, instead of calling in a National Guard, now Sandow will say, well, we don't have any jurisdiction because that's BLM land.
Well, and that's all bullshit, because if you live here, you know that Metro Answers is part of the Sheriff's Department. And who
yes, that's Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
So who did Sheriff Gillespie send down there? He sent Metro down there. And yet he claimed he had no jurisdiction to do anything. He damn well did. He sent Metro down there.
You better believe it.
He sent a SWAT team down there.
Lisa, please continue with the story, because I want this real story to be told, because there's so many misconceptions out there.
Okay. So we were funneling towards where the cattle were at, and, you know, I was off to the right of where this Daniel Love guy was at. I was kind of like maybe 2 or 3 people back, like in a row area, and I could kind of hear what was being said, and I know that he kept telling the Bundy son, you know, just come over here, you know, come over here and meet with us, just come over here, and he stood his ground. He's like, I'm not going anywhere. I am not coming over there. You're going to release the cattle. If you don't release the cattle, we're going to come in, we're going to take the cattle. We're not leaving. And I remember this being said. One of the militia guys said, and I don't know who it was, he said, you need to understand, we are not leaving. We are not putting our arms down. We're going to take the cattle. We took an oath, and we're prepared to die for this today. Are you? That was said directly to that Daniel Love. And he had a beige phone on his side, a satellite phone. And he walked away and made a call on that phone. Next thing I know, they're going to release the cattle. But it was when that one militia guy said, you need to understand right now.
Wow.
We took an oath. We are prepared to die today. Are you? That was the changing point, because nobody moved. And then you kind of saw the guys in the black outfits. There was BLM there was park rangers, there was some kind of weird black suited people that weren't Metro. I don't know who they were. They had these weird patches on their side arms. They had like a Roman numeral 3 or something. I don't know who the hell these people were.
That's the one.
Nowhere.
Lisa, that's the one that I noticed that I have been trying to figure out who they were, because you know, they had infrared patches on, which is typically military or contractor.
See, they didn't have any name badges, no identification, no nothing on their uniforms. I mean, we were close enough to them, we could see them. I didn't see a badge. You know, I didn't see, you know, how some of them we've identified, like that Michael Roop and Stephen Fitch and all them. They all had their, you know, A Roop or M Roop and S Finch. Guys didn't have nothing on them. All of a sudden, these guys come out of, like, nowhere. They came out of hiding. I don't even know how to explain it. And they start, like, walking backwards real slowly with their guns pointed at us. And it's like, dude, we have, like, 9mm on us. What are you doing? Seriously? What are you doing? Put your guns down. But that was the turning point. When that one militia guy, he just said, you need to understand something right now. We're taking the cows. We're taking the cattle. Get out of our way. And I can tell you, when we got to where the cattle were at, there was a calf that it was just horrible. I mean, the abuse was horrible. There was one cow, she had just given birth. I mean, the afterbirth was still in her, and they had to pull it out. She had just given birth. We saw where there was blood drag marks where they had drugged a calf out, and we don't know what happened to it, but it had just been born because it was fresh blood. And there was one cow that the whole side of her was like, I don't know how to explain it, it was like concaved in, like every one of her ribs had been busted, like she had been hit with a truck pushing her. And there was a couple cows that had broken legs, and I know that they were put down because there's nothing you can do.
How many were shot? How many were confirmed shot?
132 are missing. They're not accounted for.
What?
There's 132 gone that they can't account for.
That's not anywhere.
Yeah. There was, I think, 6 or 8 found in one pit, 1 found in another, 2 bulls shot. The second bull they found, there was actually drag marks where they had drug it after they shot it, trying to say it was an aggressive bull. Well, they drugged the bull because there was huge drag marks behind it. They just executed these cows for no reason. And the thing is, my husband filmed all of the cattle coming back into the ranch with the cowboys, and not one cow, not one calf, one bull was injured. Not one. Because these cowboys knew how to do their job. And I'll never forget it as long as I live. That day will be etched in my mind till the day I take my last breath. I'll never forget seeing those cows and those baby calves coming around that bend of the Virgin River. It looked like something out of a Western movie. It was just unbelievable.
Just put something up on the chat for our listeners. Please click that link that I just put up there, GoFundMe. I've got a buddy of mine, Brandon Burkhardt. He's from River City Tea Party Patriots here in San Antonio, and he's at the ranch right now. A couple of weeks ago, I met him and Scott. I wish I could go to the bunny ranch. I really do. I just can't. I met them at the feed store. We loaded up 33 bags of powdered milk for the calves, when all that happened. But Brandon's up there. He went up there, came back. He's there again, and there's a donation page. These guys need some help for their hotel rooms, their gas, things of that nature. We reached the goal. Their goal is $1,000. It's there. But if we could get something extra, any listener that's willing to contribute, really appreciate it. But just look right there in the chat and click there and donate what you can. I don't care if it's $1.
And believe me, I've been to the ranch many times. And where these men are at, it's out in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing around you. It's not like you can drive, right down the street and grab a Slurpee or anything like that. It's not like that. It's hot desert land. We're in the 90s, and we were only in April. Now we're into May. We're going to start getting into the hundreds. A lot of these guys can't afford hotel rooms, so they sleep on the desert floor. They sleep in the dirt. I've seen it. They're not asking for, hey, can you buy me a 12-pack of beer? No, these guys are just simply asking, hey, can you donate a few bucks just so we can buy batteries for our flashlights? Because the desert eats up batteries. The desert is just freaking brutal here. And if you don't live here, you don't understand that. I get it. Just if you can donate $5, $10, believe me, it really does help. And it not only will help Brandon, it helps everybody around him, because when he can go and he can buy batteries or something, they can then spread them out to other people. So it's not only helping one person, it's helping the collective group. And this is really, in my opinion, this is our last chance. If we can't get this together and keep this going and keep a rotation of men coming in and keeping supplies coming in and stuff, who's going to take a stand again?
I have to concur. I've got another call from 830 who's been on hold for a little while. Let's go ahead and see if they have a question. Area code 830, go ahead, you're on. Area code 830. Oh, well, I guess they didn't. Okay, let's try 814, area code 814. You're on. Go ahead. Well, let me try again.
Hello?
Area code 814, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, hi. First of all, you brought up about the federal government owning land, and I'm real curious about that. I don't know a lot about the law and the Constitution, what I pick up here and there, but I read that the Constitution says that the federal government can only own land or occupy land for 4 specific reasons. To to have forts, arsenals, dockyards, and federal buildings, and for nothing else. Now, maybe you know if that's true or not. And also, I'm real curious about BLM. I think Bobby mentioned the date 1946, and from what I've read, that's when BLM came about through the United Nations UNESCO. So my question is, BLM are they even, a federal agency, or are they UN? And what rights do they have?
Yeah.
Are they collecting fees for the UN? That's not legal. And if the federal government can only own, U.S. land for those 4 reasons, I just don't understand how they're getting away with all this.
They are exposed. It hasn't been exposed in a big light. This whole Bundy thing is what lit it all up. Before, nobody really knew because they were just doing it here, they were doing it there, they were doing it here, they were doing it there. There's a Colorado couple right now. They lost their home because the BLM, Department of Interior, said, hey, that's a scenic area. They lost their home. They didn't have anybody to fight with them. And it wasn't until Cliven Bundy basically said, no, I'm going to die on my property. I'm going to die protecting my cattle. I'm not going to go quietly into the night. You're not going to do this. And
now also I read that it was 1992 when Bill Clinton signed the Biodiversity Treaty, which is also UN, and that's when all this land grabbing started, was right after Clinton, signed this Biodiversity Treaty.
You're getting me upset now.
I know. Me too.
Anyone that's a patriot, is upset over all this, and first of all, hey, Lisa rocks. I get a lot of my news and updates from Lisa and, some other patriots that are involved in all this, and try to keep on top of it. It's so convoluted, for the average person to understand everything that's involved. It's insane. It's incredible. Like Lisa was talking about what happened with the cattle out there and the baby calves, and, people just losing their homes and their property. It's insane.
Oh, it is absolutely crazy. But guys, we got about 90 seconds left. Lisa, I thank you for coming on the show. You have certainly shed some light on the whole situation with Bundy, but also Mr. Franklin's case. And I would like to discuss this further because it certainly warrants being talked about further. And hopefully there's someone going to pick up and listen to this show and then get something out of it and maybe do their own investigative work and get more people out there willing to fight for their rights. And, screw Harry Reid, screw all this, bureaucracy in Nevada, and just tell them to go stick it. I mean, the old United States is over, okay? We're going to start over. And it ain't going to include the likes of Harry Reid. It ain't going to include the likes of all the others. So, guys, I appreciate you joining the show. And we're going to go ahead and close it out. Thank you very much. And,
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
And, we'll do it again. Thank you, and good night. God bless y'all.
Good night.
Good night.
Blog Talk Radio.